actually filmed the movie Juice a year. Every time you seen like guns fired in movies and shit, those were real guns with blanks. Blanks still fire out gunpowder.
Shot in the heart of Harlem, Juice was pulsing with the energy of the streets. Starring a young Tupac Shakur, Omar Epps, Khalil Kain, and Jermaine Hopkins, it captured the spirit of a generation trying to find power and purpose. But what most fans never knew is that behind the scenes, things were far more intense than anyone imagined. So, what really happened behind the scenes? And what did the cast reveal years later that changed how we see the film today? Join us as we uncover what the Juice cast revealed that most fans never figured out. The story of Juice, 1992. Juice is set in the rough neighborhoods of early 90s Harlem, and it follows the adventures of four young men who were forced to find their way in a world that is full of danger and where respect is the name of the game. Director Ernest R. Dickerson, in his first film, captured the nervous energy of teenager life in a world that constantly challenges fidelity, bravery, and survival. The story revolved around Quincy, known as Q, played by Omar Epps, an ambitious teenager who dreamed of becoming a professional DJ. His best friends, Bishop Tupac Shakur, Raheem Khalil Kain, and Steel Jermaine Hopkins, were his everyday crew. They spent their time skipping school, hanging out at the arcade, dodging the police, and dreaming of better lives. Under their laughter and fraternity, a tangling tension was growing. They all wanted more than just to survive. They wanted respect, or as Bishop puts it, they wanted juice. Everything changed the day they heard that one of their old friends had been killed in a shootout at a bar. The news shook them, particularly Bishop, who was fixated with the idea that nobody takes them seriously. He said they had to cut out a name and achieve the type of street credibility that will make them feared and respected. Respect to him meant power, and power meant survival. His plan? Rob a corner store.
Turn around the wall, quick! Please, don't shoot. Turn around, motherfucker! I don't see nothing, look.
At first, the others thought Bishop was merely boasting, but the intensity in him made them quickly realize he was dead serious. The unofficial leader of the group, Raheem, was an unwilling signatory. Q, who had a DJ competition, was torn between following his ambitions and remaining with his friends. The most reserved of the four, Steele went with the times so as not to be left out. What began as a frantic attempt to gain recognition soon became a nightmare that none of them could have ever dreamt of. Everything became dark during the robbery. The need for Bishop to be in control exploded into violence, and a sad shooting broke the group. That evening was the tipping point, the moment when friendship gave way to fear and loyalty to betrayal. Since then, Bishop became more reckless and believed he was untouchable. The others, filled with guilt and fear, tried to hold on to their humanity, yet the truth tore them apart. Q found himself in the worst of places. He was a quiet dreamer who turned out to be the main target of Bishop when he refused to give it up. Their relationship, once brotherly, became a game of cat and mouse. The movie escalated to an emotional and dramatic climax that compelled Q to decide on issues that no teenager should ever have to face: decisions about survival, morality, and what it truly meant to have juice. Fundamentally, Juice is not a crime movie as such. It is a film about young men trying to find their identity and meaning in a world that is not very promising. It is a crude and very human tale of friendship, pressure, and greed, of how very easy it is to lose your path when the streets are your school. Juice was also the first acting performance of Omar Epps and Tupac Shakur, and one of the most chilling roles of inner-city youth in movies was played by Bishop, played by Shakur. The film was shot in Harlem, and the movie's feeling is that of a generation that is attempting to discover power in a world that continues to steal it. But what if the realism fans loved wasn't acting at all? The untold story behind Juice's realness. What made Juice so real was that a good part of the dialogue was improvised. The natural progression of the film, streetwise banter, and easy chemistry were byproducts of spontaneous actions created by the actors themselves. Much of what made the movie so authentic came straight from Omar Epps, Tupac Shakur, and their castmates, who improvised large parts of their scenes. During a recent conversation on The Crew Has It podcast, hosted by Power Book 2, Ghost Stars, Michael Rainey Jr. and Gianni Paolo, Omar Epps opened up about this little-known secret. He revealed that the script for Juice had actually been written nearly a decade before filming began. Because of that, much of the slang and expressions in the original script were outdated by the time cameras started rolling in the early 90s. The lines sounded more like something from the late 70s or early 80s, with words like "hey sucka," which, according to Epps, didn't fit how young people in Harlem talked anymore. Epps shared that director Ernest R. Dickerson quickly realized the problem and gave the young cast the freedom to make the dialogue their own. Instead of having them repeat old lines, Dickerson encouraged the actors to say it in their own words. This artistic freedom allowed them to add their personalities and street lingo to every scene, turning it from a good script to a really memorable story about life in Harlem. One of the best examples of this happened in the movie's legendary locker room confrontation between Epps's character, Q, and Tupac's Bishop.
Get off that shit. It's over. It ain't nothing nobody can do about it, man.
Many fans still believe that scene was carefully written out in advance, but Epps explained that most of it was completely improvised. He and Tupac were reacting in the moment, feeding off each other's energy, tension, and emotion. To a great extent, it is this improvisational style that makes Juice feel so fresh. It has the right rhythm of the streets and the right voices of the people of Harlem. The audience did not only see acting, but a combination of experience, emotion, and instinct as it all came together in front of the camera. But what if the version you watched wasn't the one the director intended? The ending fans never saw. One of the largest secrets concerning Juice, and one that most of the fans remain unaware of, is the fact that the movie was actually initially meant to have a completely different conclusion. The final scene presented in theaters was not the one that was originally shot and intended by director Ernest R. Dickerson. In fact, the powerful rooftop showdown between Q and Bishop had a much darker and more emotional conclusion before studio executives stepped in and demanded a change. In the version Dickerson first filmed, Bishop's final moments were not just about falling, they were about choice. As the scene played out, Q was desperately trying to pull Bishop back up after their fight on the rooftop. Dickerson said that Q kept shouting, urging Bishop to hold on, while sirens wailed in the distance.
I got you, Bishop, man. Come on, hold on.
Q, don't let me go.
Just hold on, man. I can't hold on, man.
At that moment, Bishop looked directly into Q's eyes, calm and almost peaceful, and said that he wasn't going to jail. Then, instead of slipping by accident, he deliberately let go of Q's hand and fell silently into the darkness below. In the original version, Bishop was depicted as a man who wanted to have his way to the end. It wasn't about weakness or defeat. It was about pride, about the kind of twisted strength that had defined him throughout the story. But when the studio tested the movie with audiences, the reaction wasn't what they hoped for. Test viewers didn't like the idea of the bad guy deciding how he would die. The studio worried that this ending might make Bishop seem too strong or sympathetic, so they asked Dickerson to change it. According to the director, the studio made it clear that the movie wouldn't receive their full support unless he recut the ending. The difference was small, but great. Instead of depicting Bishop as deliberately releasing his hand, the last version had it appear as though his hand just slipped out of the hand of Q. That small change eliminated one of the most emotional and thought-provoking scenes of the story, the one in which Bishop gained control over the fate. In retrospect, Dickerson said that he regretted succumbing to the pressure. He thought the original ending provided depth to the character of Bishop and indicated that in his demise, he still was an agent. What audiences were watching on-screen, he said, was a compromise, not artistically intended, but as a reaction to the audience and the influence of the studio. Did the director have any other regrets about the film? The audition that wasn't meant to happen. Most fans of Juice assumed that Tupac Shakur was always meant to play Bishop, the film's intense, unpredictable antagonist who became one of the most memorable characters of the 90s. Tupac was not originally meant to play that role. In fact, he almost didn't get it. His appearance in the movie was nothing but a coincidence, a slip of fate that changed his career and the movie's legacy forever. In a 30th anniversary interview with Juice, Film director Ernest R. Dickerson described the frustration of
film made in the first place, but to see that 30 years later, the themes of the film are still relevant.
finding the right man to portray Bishop. He and his team auditioned numerous rappers and young actors, but none could convey the depth and intensity the character required. Then one day, Tupac happened to walk into the audition room, not for himself, but to support a friend who was there to read for a role. Dickerson recalled that he was starting to feel desperate and unsure who could bring Bishop to life. He looked over at Tupac, who was just waiting quietly in the room, and asked if he wanted to give it a try. Tupac agreed. What happened next became movie history. As soon as he started reading, everyone in the room could see it, the pain beneath the surface. Dickerson said Tupac knocked it out of the box on the first try. The director didn't know it at the time, but Tupac had actually trained as an actor at the Baltimore School for the Arts, which explained how effortlessly he tapped into Bishop's emotional complexity. It was not only his performance that made Tupac stand out, but also his understanding of the inner struggle of the character. Dickerson pointed out that Tupac could feel his pain in Bishop's anger, the sense of being neglected, helpless, and in need of attention. That insight made his portrayal so real that audiences couldn't take their eyes off him. Off camera, Tupac brought the same authenticity. Dickerson described him as deeply curious about people, a student of human nature. While filming in Harlem, Tupac often spoke with locals who stopped to watch the production. He would approach people whenever he saw someone distressed or just interesting. He always kept a notebook and wrote down notes and observations. Dickerson believed that many of those notes eventually became lyrics in Tupac's later music, reflections of the real stories, emotions, and struggles he absorbed from the people around him. The rest of the cast were also relatively new faces. Omar Epps, Khalil Kain, and Jermaine Hopkins were all just starting their acting careers, and Dickerson wanted that sense of freshness. He didn't want familiar Hollywood stars. He wanted young men who felt like they truly belonged in the streets of Harlem. That casting choice helped Juice maintain its raw, believable energy. What if playing Bishop became more than just acting for Tupac? Too real for the set. The way Tupac Shakur portrayed Bishop in the film Juice with its chilling reality is still remembered by most of the fans, the anger and the silent suffering in his eyes. But what most people did not know is that his fervor was not limited to the cameras. Tupac played Bishop so convincingly on set that there was no distinction between the actor and the character. It was not a mere performance on his part, but a journey that engulfed him in his surroundings. Tupac, according to co-star Jermaine Hopkins, who portrayed Steele, was fully submerged in the mindset of Bishop during the filming. Hopkins recalled that during production, Tupac would sometimes storm off the set in moments of frustration or emotional overload. It wasn't out of arrogance, it was because he felt everything so deeply. He wasn't just acting, he was carrying Bishop's anger, paranoia, and inner conflict long after cut was called. Hopkins once decided to play a harmless prank on Tupac during one of those moments, not realizing how seriously he took the work. After Tupac had walked off set, Hopkins jokingly told him that the director had decided to fire him from the film. When Tupac heard this, he believed it, and his reaction was instant. Furious and hurt, he confronted Hopkins, and things got physical before the misunderstanding was cleared up. What started as a joke quickly escalated because Tupac was so emotionally tied to the project and his role in it. This story, though small in detail, said a lot about who Tupac was as an artist. He poured every bit of himself into what he did. Even as a first-time film actor, he approached the role of Bishop with the same passion and raw emotion he later became known for in his music. Ernest R. Dickerson, the film's director, often described Tupac as deeply connected to human emotion, someone who studied people, their energy, and their pain. On the Juice set, that sensitivity gave his performance life, but it also made it hard for him to turn the character off when the cameras stopped rolling. In an interview with Hot New Hip Hop, Khalil Kain revealed that Tupac had trouble getting into the role when Bishop shoots Raheem. He explained that Pac could simply not find the heart to do it. It simply did not feel right. The initial recording was awful. It was devoid of energy and emotion. So to stir things up, he decided to push PAC's buttons a little. In the following shot, Khalil caught him and threw him into several garbage cans that immediately shot Tupac up. Khalil recalled that, when he was hit, Pac sprang up, flushed, and told him that he could not wait to get him back. From that moment, the energy shifted completely. The tension, the emotion, it all came alive on camera. Khalil said that after that little scuffle, they ended up shooting an incredible scene. And so, while the other young actors, Omar Epps, Khalil Kain, and Jermaine Hopkins, were all still learning their craft, Tupac, with his explosive energy, brought a completely different kind of fire. He wasn't just performing Bishop, he was becoming him. His immersion made his portrayal memorable, and the filming process became an emotional experience for all involved. What happens when the movie ends, but the chaos doesn't? Life after Juice. For many fans of Juice, Jermaine Hopkins was remembered as Steel, the fun, easygoing member of the crew who brought lightness and humor to an otherwise tense story. His character represented innocence in a film full of chaos and violence. But away from the screen, Hopkins' life took a far more complicated turn, one that most viewers never knew about. His story after Juice became a real-life reflection of the challenges many young stars face as they try to find their footing after fame fades.
No, man. I wasn't looking for no tattoo. I was doing the oochie-coochie, my friend.
Jermaine Hopkins had already been making a name for himself before Juice. As a teenager, he earned critical acclaim for his breakout role in Lean on Me, where he played Thomas Sams, a troubled student trying to turn his life around. That performance caught the eye of many in Hollywood and helped him land the role of Steel in Juice a few years later. At the time, Hopkins was one of the most promising young black actors in the industry, but as the years went by, his career slowed down, and life off-screen became increasingly difficult. In 2017, Hopkins made headlines again, but not for acting. According to TMZ, he was arrested in Apex, North Carolina, after being pulled over for speeding. Officers said he was driving about 70 miles per hour in a 55-mile-per-hour zone. When they searched his car, they allegedly found roughly 5.7 pounds of marijuana hidden in the trunk. Hopkins was arrested and charged with felony drug possession with intent to sell, along with a speeding violation. He was later released on a $3,000 bond. This wasn't his first encounter with the law. Back in 2011, Hopkins had also been caught in a sting operation, where he allegedly purchased around 200 pounds of illegal substance from an undercover police officer. That earlier arrest resulted in a 3-year probation sentence. For someone who had once played characters struggling to make better choices, these real-life events felt almost painfully ironic. The legacy of Juice is a complicated addition to Hopkins' story. Although his on-screen presence, Steel represented the theme of loyalty and young innocence, his real life took a much different direction. Actors achieving success at an early age can be burdened with the pressures of fame, personal struggles, and the unpredictability of Hollywood. Hopkins has remained in touch with his fans despite his legal problems. He occasionally shares some of his memories during his acting days.
The film crew has now stopped all of your money that you're making.
He is still being celebrated by many as a result of the roles which defined a generation of black cinema. His path, though not smooth, is a true and human one. An early success story, a lack of direction, and a persistent fight to find a balance outside the limelight. Do you think Juice would have had the same impact if someone else played Bishop? Did you think the actors who played Juice were acting out what they face in real life? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.